Hello, Scraganog here from the Stage 9 project. On Thursday the 13th of September, the Stage 9 Discord, YouTube, website and subreddit were put into lockdown. We're sorry about having to do this and keep everyone in the dark, but we didn't really have much choice at that point. I just want to give you a little bit of history about Stage 9 and what it is. I originally created Stage 9 in 2016 as a piece of fan art. Star Trek, and Star Trek The Next Generation specifically, were always really important to me growing up. And to be able to walk around on the Enterprise D always excited me, and just for a moment feel like I was part of that thing. So it made sense to try and start a project and try to build that experience out of a passion for Star Trek and something that always was important to me. Over time, it started to come together beyond my wildest dreams, and what would be Stage 9 as a project formed itself pretty naturally as the scope and the concept evolved. It was very humbling to me that what I was working on started to attract the attention of like-minded people. Folks that also grew up with 1990s Star Trek and understood that the hope and optimism of that world was something worth exploring. Pretty quickly, the development team expanded with a group of incredibly talented people that all wanted to contribute their free time towards the project, and each developer brought their own unique personality to Stage 9, increasing the quality of the project massively. There were two things that we were always pretty careful with. We made it as clear as we possibly could that this was not an officially licensed project. We had no affiliation with CBS or Paramount, and the IP we were trying our hardest to treat with respect was not our own. It was owned by those companies. We were just fans creating fan art, and I thought we'd made that pretty clear. Given that Star Trek was not a property that we owned, it was clear that money of any form could not really be involved in this project, for reasons that I would think are obvious. And to be honest, nobody involved was ever in it for any sort of financial reasons, far from it. When Star Trek talks about equality throughout humankind and a world where we've moved beyond any need for money, it's safe to say that this project was a lot more about respecting those ideals than anything else. I decided pretty early on that we'd try and put out semi-regular releases for the project over time, to give folks that were following the project something to explore and play around in, whilst we continued development. Perhaps this was a bad idea. Maybe we should have waited until we were something that we could consider complete, but I honestly don't regret the approach that we took. We made it through 10 distinct releases, catering to desktop experiences on Windows, Mac and Linux, as well as VR experiences compatible with the Oculus Rift and HTC Vive. We even had a couple of mobile releases for Android phones, but this quickly became unsupported due to the complexities of mobile development. Star Trek Bridge Crew, a polished and fun VR and later desktop game, was released by Ubisoft in 2017. Bridge Crew took the excellent multiplayer crew gameplay of Artemis Spaceship Bridge Simulator and brought it into the world of Star Trek. In 2018, they announced a DLC featuring the Enterprise D, allowing the player to take the places of Bridge Crew on that ship. Internally, for the Stage 9 team, this was an exciting development. What a fun game this could be. But at the same time, it concerned us. We now had an officially licensed game touching on elements that we ourselves had been investigating. So we decided to take a break from the semi-regular releases and let Bridge Crew do its thing without us actively releasing something quasi-similar, but not really, at the same time. So after 10 versions, we halted the regular releases for the time being. Behind the scenes, progress on Stage 9 for the 11th release was incredible. We resolved one of the biggest issues that existed in the project, performance, and started expanding both the explorable areas of the ship and replacing old and inflexible game technology with better and more immersive approaches. Stage 9 was really turning into something that was starting to feel polished, and we couldn't be prouder of what we were creating. Throughout all of this, though, we knew that this could end at any point. Stage 9 was unlicensed, and looking far back into the history of fan recreations, these things exist at the pleasure of the license holder. We knew this, and we respected it. I'm not sure how publicly known this is, but at one point in the recent history of Stage 9, we were actively investigating an approach we could take to hopefully, if the worlds aligned, pitch our project to CBS in the hopes of becoming a licensee. Maybe it would have worked, maybe it wouldn't, but it was a worthwhile idea. Unfortunately, the approach we were taking at that point was very stressful and was straining the team, so I made the call to halt all progress on that area of development for now, and for us to return to the core vision of Stage 9. Maybe I made the wrong call, maybe I didn't, and maybe it doesn't matter now. So, on Wednesday, September 12th, 2018, we received a letter from the CBS legal department. This letter was a cease and desist order. For those that aren't aware, a cease and desist order is described as a legally enforceable order from a court or government agency directing someone to stop engaging in a particular activity. The uncertain future we always had at the back of our minds had caught up to us. As soon as we digested the letter, we put all of the Stage 9 public-facing channels into lockdown, which I'm sure you'd understand was the wisest thing to do at that point. Over the next 13 days, we did everything we possibly could to open up a dialogue with CBS. The member of the CBS legal team that issued the order went on holiday for a week immediately after sending the letter through, which slowed things down considerably. During this period, we discovered an enlightening interview that John Van Citters, CBS's Vice President of Product Development, gave in 2016 regarding community and fan involvement within the Star Trek brand, explaining the levels at which CBS encouraged and supported fan-created content. At risk of provoking a copyright strike here on YouTube, I won't include excerpts from the interview here, but I would like to quote some of the things John said. "It's easy to think that Star Trek, in terms of fan initiatives lately, is all about fan films. But that's not it at all. We've long encouraged fan creativity and fan participation in Star Trek. We want fans involved, very much so, and it's going to help us evolve and bring Star Trek to a bigger and brighter future. They're not going to hear from us. They're not going to get a phone call. They're not going to get an email. They're not going to get anything that's going to ruin their day one way or another and make them feel bad or like they've done something wrong. And I want to do the best that we possibly can by Star Trek fans, that Star Trek, no question, owes a lot to." End quote. To be clear, the core focus of the interview was in regards to the recently created Star Trek fan film guidelines, but it was evident to us that John Van Citters was well aware and supporting of other fan endeavours and initiatives, of which we would consider Stage 9 to be part of. After reading that Mr. Van Citters had previously engaged in dialogue with a different Star Trek fan production, we thought it would be worthwhile reaching out to him to see if he could help us try and keep Stage 9 alive in some form, especially in the absence of our previous CBS contact. Whilst it seems that Mr. Van Citters did receive our 2 attempts at contact to open a dialogue, he did not and still hasn't responded in any way. Finally, 13 days after receiving the initial cease and desist order, we were able to speak to our initial contact within the CBS legal department. We were hoping, perhaps naively, that the elements of Stage 9 that CBS did not approve of could be highlighted to us, so we could be sure to remove these elements from the project and create something that met with, if not their approval, then at least their acceptance of. Some examples of the elements which we thought played a factor here are the inclusion of VR within the project, using the Starship Enterprise as opposed to a different Galaxy-class ship, or the actual name of the project itself, Stage 9. We would have been happy to accommodate any and all of their requests for modification, simply to keep this project that our dedicated group of developers have been building up over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, the answer was no. The project could not continue in any form, regardless of whatever changes were made to it. And so, that brings us to where we are today. Stage 9 cannot continue in any form. I would like to ask CBS to please clarify their stance on fan endeavours and initiatives that do not fall under the remit of the fan film guidelines, As Mr. Van Sitters states himself, there's more going on than just fan films, and it is a truly horrible situation to be in when something that tries to respect Star Trek can be eliminated without any opportunity for open dialogue. Finally, as a team, we plan to stick together and create something new and exciting to work on. We will keep you updated when we have more information on this, so please keep checking back. I would like to thank everyone that followed Stage 9, as your support was what kept us going. We read many positive messages from folks that appreciated what we were building, as it brought them back to something that they, like us, enjoyed so much. Again, thank you so much from all of the Stage 9 developers for all of your support over the last 2 years. To end, an apt quote from everyone's favourite starship captain: "The acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force of our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity." Good morning, and in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and hello.